Hi, I'm Fred Satilli. This is the second part of a series called Who Are You Really? I've been asked by more than one person about why we're calling it that. And more than anything, it's important for you to know who you are, because all your life you thought you knew who you were, but in reality you weren't. So this, and some of you may be happy to remain that way, but the goal of this entire thing is to discuss with you which you'd rather be. Whether you'd rather be an independent man or you'd rather be a dependent man. So the title for this segment is called Independence. And it's real important to realize that we had a Declaration of Independence, not a Declaration of Freedom, not a Declaration of Liberty, a Declaration of Independence, because we wanted independence from a tyrannical government. You know, when you're a child, you're dependent. And as you grow, you want independence. You want to make your own decisions and decide your own path and become a man or become a woman, no longer a baby. This is when you're 1 year old or 2 years old, you have your eye on the sidewalk and what's down the street. You want to go there. You want to be independent and discover and learn for yourself. You don't want to just remain a little boy in a high chair being fed by your mom. And some people, it seems, still want to do that, and there are those who don't. So you found out that you are an American citizen, which means you are not a free man. Legally, you're a dead man, and unknown to you, because obviously you're still breathing, you think you're legally alive. But in the eye of the government, which is a corporation, you no longer count. The living, breathing man standing on the land doesn't count. Only the corporation counts, and you keep volunteering to be subservient to that corporation. The reason this contract is never shown to you and never discussed by public education, the government's education, or anywhere along the line, your parents are living in ignorance, and the media certainly doesn't help. The reason this is never shown to you, because if you became fully aware of it, you'd object to it. And you'd want to negotiate that contract or renegotiate that contract or disregard that contract, but you're a citizen, and it says right in the contract that the contract is not negotiable. So the contract has to be nullified. And a good example of this is you hear about soldiers in combat, and sometimes they go to get their pay and the paymaster says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Private, you're dead," because somewhere on the record it shows that you were killed or missing in combat, and therefore you can't draw pay. Now you're standing there living and breathing, but as far as the paymaster is concerned, on the book, which is all he cares about, you're dead. You're not going to receive any pay, and you have to reassert yourself as a man on the land to reinitiate your pay. So in the first video, I talked pretty quickly about this whole subject, and the idea was to spark your attention and get you to start asking questions. And early on in there was a segment that was glossed over, and I said, look, we got to talk about this more in another video. And now we're going to do just that. We're going to go back to that video, so I'm going to show you a minute or two of that one so you remember what we're talking about, and then we're going to address those two issues. When you are born, moments later, as expeditiously as possible, you are issued a birth certificate, and a blood sample is taken from your heel. A black ink footprint is taken and put on that document, and that document is filed in a county registry where property is registered. Through legal mumbo jumbo, the state national, which is what you are at that time, is declared dead on arrival, and your name that your unwitting parents have granted to you becomes changed from capital letters and small letters to all capital letters. Names in all capital letters here in our country are legal designation of a corporation, not of a free man. That certificate with all capital letters on it is the creation of a corporation with a name similar to yours that you were granted by your parents, but has now been legally changed. You as a state national are dead. That's why you have the black footprint. And a corporation in your name is created. You don't know about any of this kind of thing. You're 2 days old. Now there's you, and there's a straw man, a corporation that is not you. You, at this time, are an infant. The straw man is a corporation with a name similar to yours, but in all capital letters. I hope you understand this. You do not enter into contracts at this time because you are an infant, but your natural parents, in ignorance of all of this, in innocent ignorance of this, may enter you into your first one simply by requesting a Social Security number. That number is not granted to you. It is granted to the straw man. I know this sounds incredible, but in the eyes of the government, which is a corporation, you are legally dead. The corporation that is the United States of America is only interested in the corporation that has the name similar to yours. You do not know that this has happened to you, and because you don't know, you assume that identity. This creates an interesting dilemma for the government that we'll discuss later. And this also creates a shocking benefit for the government that we will also discuss in a later video. Okay, so now we're back, and you see the situation, right? There's a dilemma for the government and a benefit for the government. Now, the dilemma is they make you into a dead man, and a dead man can't have debt, right? A dead man is dead. So the government is imposing debt on the straw man. They can't really ask the dead man to pay that. The dead man can't have a debt. He can't pay the debt, you know? Only the straw man can. And because you accept that you're the straw man, you keep paying it. So the dilemma for them, I hope I'm making this clear. The dilemma for them is they're assigning debt to a dead man. That debt is not your debt. It's the debt to a corporate contract, not to you. Now we're going to talk about the benefit to the government. And these things are closely connected. One goes right into the other. And the benefit is that the government, as soon as you are dead, they can open up your straw man, and they can immediately make a trust that the straw man is in your name so that you have something to pay. And they make a bond for you. They insure you. There's a bond. And before 75, they gave you a bond of $650,000, and after 75, they gave you a bond of $1 million. They bonded you so that you would be able to pay that even if you died. Okay? And the way they do that is actuarially, they compute the lifetime income of the straw man, and they borrow that entire lifetime income immediately or at any time with the straw man indentured to pay that debt. The straw man goes through his life paying and paying and paying, and every imaginable kind of tax and fee. And most people die completely broke. By the time they die, they've wiped out their savings, they've sold their homes, they've downsized, they've moved in with their relatives, they're in a government-controlled nursing home or whatever, and they die broke, and they've paid back the debt. They've paid it. You see, so the government was able to get the money, keep the money, and you paid it back. Isn't that sweet? You know, when they put a prisoner in prison, they actually put a life insurance policy on that prisoner. That's how That's how well figured out this transfer of wealth from you and your labor and your very life, the transfer of wealth to the government. That's I didn't want to get off on that tangent, but it just came to mind, and so I blurted it out. But anyway, I'm going to tell you another fantastic thing that they do and why they do it. So think about this. A great many government people want to give citizenship to illegal aliens. Now, why do they want to do that? Why do they want all those people coming here? And why do they want to give them citizenship? A great many people, because of the media and because of general ignorance of this whole straw man concept, a great many people say, oh, they want them to all vote for one party. They're bringing them all in so they vote for one party. We know what they're doing. We're smart. If you bring 1 million people into the country and you grant them citizenship, as soon as they become a citizen, they will compute the money that they might make in their lifetime. If a person makes $20,000 a year for 50 years, or $25,000 for 40 years, or $50,000 for 20 years, that's $1 million. And the government can open up a trust, open up a bond, and they can borrow that $1 million against the life of that person. Now that's one person and $1 million. If you bring in 1 million of those people, and you do this with each one, 1 million times 1 million is 1 trillion, my friends. Those illegal aliens are worth $1 trillion to the United States of America Incorporated. They don't care about the voting. They control the elections with election fraud. They have that all figured out, and we've pretty much come to accept it. It's been fully exposed with concrete evidence, but half the population denies that, and the other half doesn't know what to do about it, or doesn't care, or is fighting an extremely uphill battle against people who are being paid to resist them. So grow up, get real. It's not about the votes. It's about the money. It's all about the money. Now, the reason that they can do this, the reason that they can claim this identity, the actual crime has a name, and that name is personage. That's what it's called. Personage is identity theft, and we'll be expanding on that in yet another video, because once the straw man gives his consent, he's locked in. If he doesn't give his consent, there is a way to unwind it. And that's because it's been done with fraud. Personage is fraud. And fraud always vitiates a contract. It always nullifies a contract. So fraud upon the court or fraud upon an individual nullifies, the contract becomes null and void. So you can nullify and void the contract that was created using personage, taking your identity without your consent. You couldn't consent, you were 2 years old. The illegal aliens may not even understand English, or well, they might be from any country, and they, so they do this, and these people coming across the border, they're only too happy to do whatever they're told to do because they're completely weak, just as you're weak when you're a newborn baby. They get you then, they get them in a moment of weakness, they use personage to steal their identity, they lock them into a contract, and they fund the Taliban if they want, or any crazy thing, any of their crazy agendas. They take that money and they spend it like, with complete immunity, no accountability, and that's why we have this fantastic debt that we have. The people in government do not care. because it's not their debt either. It's the debt of, it's really a debt that's created in admiralty law. It's a debt of contracts. It's not a debt that you have signed on to accept as a knowledgeable, not defrauded person. This is why this is called Who Are You Really? People do not know who they really are. And for you to make any of this work that we're doing effective, you have to absolutely know and understand and believe in your heart of hearts, believe in as deep down as you believe your most concrete beliefs, you have to know and understand this. This concept of knowing who you are can't be stressed enough. People may think they know who they are or think they know who they want to be, but very few people understand their true nature. And your true nature is really important, because when your contract is void, is nullified, has become moot, the legal term is ab initio. That means from initiation, from the beginning, from the very beginning. This is before you're born. You take back your identity. You include your identity from in the womb all the way until now. So now you've reclaimed your identity. The contract is broken. The contract is gone. But the big question still remains. Do you want to be free? The power to be free comes with the need for vigilance. A great big jungle cat is free, but has to always be vigilant for surrounding predators or for food sources. A bird is free. They're free as a bird, right? But they have to constantly be vigilant. They have to be vigilant for predators. They have to be vigilant for all the circumstances. Aware of the weather might be an important thing. So when you become independent, you're not really free yet. Independence is a path to freedom. The hard thing to face is that you need a lot of courage and a lot of capacity to be free, to be independent. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to be in the cradle of the government and take their benefits and do what they say and comply? A great many people do. They're thrilled to be in this situation. They don't want to run their own life. They don't want to make their own decisions. They're just as happy to move quietly off to the side and be unnoticed. And you might be that kind of person. But if you don't have the capacity for independence, you understand that? If you don't have the capacity to be responsible for yourself, then you will never, ever be free. You have to ask yourself, this is not for the faint of heart. This requires re-education, confidence, capacity, and the benefits are for those who know how to enjoy them. The benefits, this is not like joining the motor club where you get an ID card and now you have a good deal on a rental car. This is not that. This is a fantastic thing. It's a real gut check. And as we talk with people about this, we very, very much find out who they are, and sometimes they find out who they are, and sometimes they're not happy with that, and sometimes they're just as happy with it. So I'm going to end here, and I'll be back to discuss some of the finer points of this in the videos to come. And I thank you for your patience and indulgence again, as I always do. My name is Fred Satilli, and I hope we get the chance to study again together. Thanks again. Bye-bye.